I think my favorite course to teach, in fact I know my favorite course to teach, is literary theories, which was kind of a surprise. Literary theory has a reputation of being difficult and abstract, but it's consistently one of my favorite courses, and I think probably one of the most fun courses for my students as well. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that it's about ideas. Students have been interpreting literary texts for as long as they've been in school, but they rarely have the opportunity to step back and ask questions like, why read? Or what makes one reading good or another not good? Or big questions like that. And literary theories allows people to step back and to look at those questions and to work with those ideas very directly. And I think there's the second part about it that I think is especially useful, even, not just fun, but actually useful, is that so much of contemporary literary theory calls into question basic things like the self, truth, meaning, interpretation, all of these sort of things that we take for granted in everyday life. And that gives students a really good opportunity to think about where they really stand with these things. Or what makes something true to you? What makes a meaning important to you? And to develop a sense of what they believe and why they believe it, and to take that kind of stand. A good example is what we did today. We read an article by Guillory called Cultural Capital. And it's an article in which he talks about what's sometimes called the culture wars of the 1990s, in which the traditional canon is pitched against the multicultural canon, and all of the sort of political battles that go on there. And his argument is that in some ways these are cultural capital. There's sort of the ideas that we have that we can invest in society and make something of ourselves and to do something for society in general in very similar ways. Whereas he says that really what should be opposed to those are managerial and professional and technical kinds of education, which have a very, very different kind of cultural capital. And this is a very important question for students, probably especially for English majors. And one of the big questions, of course, is what do you do with an English major? What do you do with that cultural capital? And so today, to get students to think about those kinds of questions, we played a very unfair game in which we split the class into 4 groups. And one group was the traditionalists. They have the cultural capital of people who read from the traditional canon. The second group is of the multiculturalists. Those are the cultural capital of those with a multicultural canon. The third group is the professional, technical, or managerial, kind of what they would get from that kind of an education. And the fourth group is society, which converses among themselves and decides what they think they reward or should reward. What does our society need and why? And then we play a game. So each of the groups of society, the types of cultural capital, take one round and discuss one thing that they're good for, one way in which that kind of knowledge helps them be better citizens, or perhaps helps them to get ahead in whatever kind of way that would mean in society. We go around, the group in society then marks on a board how far each got, what is each rewarded and why. It's fun, but more importantly, it's a way of getting students to think about what's important to them as they go ahead in life, and what kind of cultural capital is useful for them. It's the kind of thing I like to do in a kind of class. So that's probably my favorite course.